You guys there?
Yep. Can you hear us?
Yep. Sorry, I lost my
No,
Zoom skills over the since we came back.
no worries. Good to see you, Coach. We're going to go straight into questions for co-defensive coordinator and safeties coach Ephraim Banda. First up, we have Christopher Stock from Inside.
Yeah, Coach, I was curious about your three safeties, maybe how that battle's going as you determine which guys to play, and also what are some factors you're looking at as you determine, either who starts or who plays the most among the three.
This year is different, Christopher. It's not about who plays field free safety or rover. It's about depth. It's about getting guys due to the situation to learn as many positions as possible. So we have rolled numerous guys. Everyone's learning how to play another position, period. It's something that Coach Diaz, has stressed to our staff throughout the pandemic while we're on a little while we were stuck in our homes. He wanted to remind everyone to be thinking about teaching multiple positions to our kids because you never know what may happen. So, at field safety, I'd say, obviously Gervin has been there and done a great job. I've had Bubba learn both positions, and Mari already knows both. Started camp with all the young guys rotating in and out. But feel, as a whole, feel really good about, the three guys we have in Bubba, Gervin, and Amari.
Awesome. Next up, we're going to go to David Feronis from the Sun Sentinel. David, what's your question for Coach?
Sure. Yeah, Coach. Along those lines, even if, let's say, everyone's healthy and everyone's available, is this kind of a position group where you're not just looking for two starters? You're really looking probably to rotate three, kind of like you did last year when Robert Knowles was with Gervin and Amari, and also how to follow after that as well.
Yeah, we want to roll guys. We're looking for depth. We're looking to play a lot. If you remember, David, we actually rolled four there for a while when we got Bubba. So we were playing four different safeties, and I had them on rotation. I was like, hey, you guys are up. Next two, you're up. It was just that's how we did it. So yes, we'd like to have depth. We'd like to roll a lot of guys. Like I said, I feel really good about those first three. They've done a great job through the summer. They've done a good job through training camp. I thought Bubba and Gervin had really good training camps. Obviously Amari's, Mr. Steady. He's done a great job being a professional throughout through the pandemic and the time off of really being a pro, like you discussed earlier in his stuff. And so definitely this is a year where if you can't play multiple positions and you can't do a lot of things, your value to the team, to the roster, how you can help the team drastically drops. So we're looking for guys that can do multiple things. It doesn't matter what position you may play. You never know what 2020 will bring. You wake up every morning with new things, new things to deal with. You got to adapt.
And I also wanted to ask what you look for guys to be suited for each of the two safety spots, and also just how Bubba Bolden has come along since coming back from last year's injury.
Look, bottom line, I've told you guys this, the same answer. Some of you guys will hear it. You know it already what I'm about to say. When it comes to the safeties, you got to tackle, period. If you don't tackle, you won't play for Coach Diaz, Coach Baker, myself. So unless you prove that you will tackle and be physical, you won't play here. So that's always number one. The urgency and the effort running to the ball is really 1A. Yeah, that's not even 2. Those are the things that we always value. You've asked, everyone asks this question every year. It will never change as long as I'm sitting in this seat and Coach Diaz has blessed me with this opportunity. So those are the most important things. And then knowing what to do. You got to be able to operate, especially with, college football these days and the tempo and the speed of things. You got to be able to execute. You can't bust. Our mistakes are touchdowns. It's period. It is what it is. Our mistake isn't a 15-yard game. It isn't a 5-yard game. They result in touchdowns, and touchdowns result in losses. So you got to be able to. You can't bust. You got to run like hell to the ball. You got to be physical and tackle. So I'd say as a group, we've shown that through training camp. For the most part, there's guys that still need to improve in that. There's no question we'll continue to do that over the next week.
Awesome. Next up, we're going to go to Tom D'Angelo from the Palm Beach Post. Tom, what's your question for Coach?
Hey, Coach. Coach, talk about how much does it help when you have two of your three guys have known each other for a long time through high school, and both of them said how they worked out with each other. Is there kind of does it help? Does it create kind of a chemistry between them and kind of a bond between them that can in turn help your group?
Yeah, Will, you know what? I just realized I did not answer the second question there. Bubba Bolden has had a great camp, by the way. I apologize. You asked the second question before that. But Bubba's had a great camp, one. So really proud of him. He really came in here and learned Rover and did a great job of trying to dive into that and learn the nuances of that position. I thought he was physical. He still has to improve on tackling, which he's done a good job, but there's still more to clean up in that area. But in terms of having two guys that have played together, have a relationship that dates back a long time, always helps. We had that with Redwine and Jaquan. You had that with Rayshawn and Jamal there for a while. They played a lot of football together, at Miami. So this group right now, especially the three guys, really gelled well together. They all know that they're ones in our eyes. They're not, whether Gervin and Amari go or Bubba and Amari go or Bubba and Amari or Gervin go, it doesn't matter. They understand how important it is for them to do it together. So definitely the fact that they've had a relationship. Bubba, I will say this, Bubba's done a phenomenal job of coming in here and building a relationship as kind of the quote unquote new guy a year ago with the room and the defense. I asked him to do that when he first got here. I'd say he's done a phenomenal job of building a relationship within the defense with his fellow DBs and, the other group in terms of linebackers, safeties, and corners.
Thank you.
Awesome. Next, we're going to go to Matt Shodell from Kane Sport. Matt, what do you have for Coach?
Hey, Coach. So a couple of things. First of all, if you could put on your co-coordinator hat for a second instead of safeties coach. It's a fast-paced offense now with Coach Lashley. They can score very quickly. They can have drives go south very quickly. I expect you guys to anticipate the defense will have to play a lot more reps. So, are you sort of pretty comfortable with the defense overall depth-wise? Obviously, at safety, you have very good depth, like you mentioned, but overall as a defense. And then also, one of the other guys who was talking said, mentioned Jalen Harrell at safety. Is Jalen also working at striker or any other safeties cross-training between striker and safety? If you can answer that as well. Thanks.
Yep. So depth is your first question, right? Defensively, it's something that we're still working at. To be honest with you, Matt, I wouldn't say, we feel great right now. No one does. No coordinator in the country is going to say they feel, wonderful. If they do, they must have they've done some good things already in recruiting. But I would say that I'm encouraged, but we still have a lot of work to do to build depth from the front to the middle to the back. And that is the big challenge this week. Coach Diaz has talked about it. One thing that he said in one of our staff meetings a couple of days ago is depth, man. He told us depth. You cannot stop thinking about that word and developing, the guys behind him due to just the weird year it's been. So I'm encouraged. We still have a long way to go. Our young safeties, to answer that question, are all Brian Balaam, Keyshawn Washington, Jalen Harrell. They're all working at multiple positions. They're not, just playing one per se, and they're not taking any striker reps, just to answer your question, Matt. They are focusing in on one position. It's really hard, Matt, for a young guy to learn two positions. I mean, it takes a long time for a pro to do it. You know what I mean? Much less a freshman where his head's still spinning. We got to remember Keyshawn only had half a spring, if you think about it. And then, we had to kind of call timeout in the world. So, Jalen, and if you think about Jalen and Brian, they didn't get to come till later in the summer, where normally they get to come in summer A, so they kind of got a little bit of a late start as well. So they are definitely focusing on just playing rover and field safety and rotating a lot. They've done a good job to this point. But definitely, at the end of the day, to answer your question, defensively, our job is to pay the bill, period. And if the bill is big, we got to pay the bill, right? If the bill is small, great. We'll take it, and we got to pay that bill. So no matter what happens offensively, we got a job to do. We got to pay the bill. It's something Coach Diaz always preaches, and no matter what that is, we're got to go do it. So hopefully that answers your question as best I can, Matt.
Awesome. We got time for a couple more, Coach. Next up, we have David Lake from Inside the U. David, what do you have for Coach Banda?
Hey, Coach. Just a simple question, I guess. In your opinion, has Gervin kind of taken a jump compared to last year? And if so, in what way are you seeing that in camp?
Hey, David. I would say for Gervin, the biggest thing I've seen is just early in Gervin's career, which really doesn't matter. Gervin, you can name any safety we've had all the way back, dating to Texas, Mississippi State, La Tech, all of them. Here, early in their career, you got to constantly pressure or remind young DBs, and especially safeties, how important urgency and being locked in really, really affects their game. Gervin, early in his career, I always had to keep pressing the button, and reminding him. What I would say the biggest jump I've seen to this point, to this camp, is I don't have to remind him as much. He now knows, how important it is to start fast, to be locked in, to not allow the moments of casualness to jump into, his brain, which is natural for all of us, whether, you're David Lake for Inside You, or you're David, you're David Ferronis from, Palm Beach. It doesn't matter. Like, we all have that brain. It all tells us all the time, get casual, relax, right? That's the world. He now is starting to develop and grow to remember, now I got to start fast. I got to play fast start. It doesn't matter. I got to be ready to go. So I'd say for Gervin, where I'm, really proud of him to this point, is I'm starting to see a little bit of a maturity, not a little bit, I'm starting to see maturity and understanding the awareness of being locked in from the jump and starting practice and starting a scrimmage like that. Now he's got to carry that over, and now he's got to really understand when bad things happen to him, whether it happens to him or around in his world or in his, in his vicinity, he can't let that affect him like it did last year. He's got to play through that. He's got to understand that he has to not only play through that, but he's got to get everyone else to play through that as well.
Awesome. Next up, we have Chris Perkins from Sports Illustrated. Chris, do you have a question for Coach?
Hey, Coach, I'm doing something on communication in the secondary, and I've got 2 parts here. What does that term mean to you, communication in the secondary? Does that involve pre-snap? Does that involve corrections in the huddle? Does that involve watching video? And how do you know the communication is effective with your safeties to the rest of the secondary? What are the telltale signs?
Okay, great little deal, Chris. Chris, congratulations. I think you just took the job. Is that correct?
I did. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations, Chris. But to answer your question, first off, we talk about being visually vocal. That's the word I try to use with the young men when you talk about pre-snap communication. In a game, you're not going to be able to speak or them to hear you. So you need to be visually vocal with your communication, using your hands, using your signals pre-snap to communicate to a DB, to a linebacker, to whoever, even us, to them. You got to be visually vocal. Now, pre-snap or communication in a game does not start in a game. It doesn't start when the whistle's blown. It starts in the film room. Communication is understanding offenses, splits, releases. When coach, when coach puts up the little personnel sign, understanding what those numbers mean and how it affects whatever Coach Baker signals in. When they see 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, this is going to get me to do 1 or 2 things. Okay, here comes the call. Now I know I need to start communicating with, one of the safeties and one of the linebackers. So it is very much about understanding offenses, pre-snap communication. You can talk all you want during or right before a play or right after. But if you're not able to process it pre-snap, understand the little signals that you get from maybe a personnel sign or way a receiver lines up, or a splitter receiver, or the depth of the back, or the X is cut, or the slot is wide, all those things are all things that help you start to communicate to the next man, that you need to across the board. At safety, it's massive, period. Coach Diaz always talks about it, Coach Baker, myself. If you're not going to talk at safety, you can't play safety. Not here, not in the NFL, not for the Richmond Giants down the street. You can't. You got to be able to communicate. And you also got to be able to see the whole picture and understand what you're seeing. And you can't understand what you're seeing if you've never really took the time in the film room and to really learn those things so that you can get out there and actually communicate the right things. And the last thing I'll say is sometimes, and it always happens with young guys, they want to talk, but they're saying the wrong things. So it's just, it's counterintuitive, and really hurts. But I think at the end of the day, communication is about being visually vocal is the word we use. And then understanding that comes by learning offenses and splits in the modern day offense and being able to communicate that pre-snap.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right, Coach. Our last question comes from Daryl Streeter of Footballville. Daryl, what do you have for Coach?
Coach, how you doing today?
Hey, Daryl. Good. How are you?
I'm all right. How is young guy Keyshawn Washington coming along?
Sorry, is that Keyshawn you're asking, Daryl? Kind of faint there.
How's Keyshawn Washington coming along? Yeah, how's Keyshawn Washington?
Gotcha. You know what, Keyshawn, I feel bad for because he got his spring kind of cut from him. He did everything he needed to do to get out of school early. And, unfortunate situation, cut his spring early. But what I would say is he did a good job, taking advantage of the early spring meetings and the few practices we had. He's still like the rest of the freshmen, still trying to come along, learn the importance of practicing hard, the importance of being physical. And I'm not just talking about Keyshawn in this situation. It's all of them, Jalen and Brian. I'll say Avante's done a great job in the film room as well. He's really, really, locked in. I ask him questions every day in the film room as if he's out there, period. But Keyshawn, it is a bummer that he kind of got here for the spring, got here early as an early enrollee and didn't get to take advantage of it. But what he did get to take advantage has helped him, early in this camp. And Jalen as well. Brian's done a phenomenal job. And like I said, Avante, really proud of just mentally where, him staying locked in these meetings and being able to answer questions if he was on the field.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Coach Banda, for taking the time to chat with us after practice, and good luck the rest of the week.
Appreciate you guys. And hey, remember, Black lives still matter. Love you guys.